You are co-creation with spirit. You have everything that you need within yourself. Everything that you create comes from a thread that is within. You can either weave your own web or get stuck in the web. It is your choice. It isn't the duality of life. What is it that you choose? Each choice has no judgment. It is not right. It is not wrong. It is simply life and growth. The soul is very wise, and it undergoes many challenges that our humanness can't quite understand. But the soul knows. The soul likes to be pressure cooked a little bit. The soul thinks chaos and excitement is fun. Do you ever think that even if we were enlightened beings at one time, if we were so enlightened and so peaceful that at some point, maybe perhaps, that we started seeking more? We were craving new experiences because change is inevitable and creation is inevitable. Things are always changing for the infinitive of life. And it is the way of the mind, it is the way of the heart. It simply seeks out new paradigms, new realities to play in. Sometimes it wants to play on one side of the ball court, and sometimes it wants to play on the other. Sometimes I want to be spiritual, and I want to have harmony and feel great. Sometimes I want to be like a dangerous lioness. I want to wear boots and vamp around and just be bad and not care and have fun. These are choices that we all choose to live out and experience. There is no judgment at all. The only thing that I see is that it's time for us to take the choice back. Right now, we live in a world with so many restrictions. Why is it that as a collective consciousness, if everything is collected, we have chosen to restrict ourselves? I think the soul is ready now to break out of these restrictions, to break out of this crystallizing cocoon or box or darkness, whatever you want to call it. It's ready to break out. It's ready to make its own choices. It's tired of the restrictions of the old paradigm. I feel like us as a soul group, as a collective, is ready to create from our heart. It is the beginning, it is the way. That is the way. It is more than just the day-to-day routine. It is more than that. It is the pathway that the heart chooses. It is so much bigger than a simple paycheck or a house. It is actually creating a life that is rich and abundant and according to your signature. This is about authenticity, this generation and this era. This is about being authentic to your power and discovering it and making it boom and roar so loud that it echoes into the universe and creates a new playground to play in, a new paradigm, a new reality, a new vibration, a new signature. Somebody, I can't remember his name, something meter, does esoteric knowledge, and he says that like before in the Piscean age that we were like a church choir, and this new generation is like a jazz band. Church choir is all synchronistic. Everybody's doing the same thing. They're in synchronicity. In the jazz band, each person brings a little bit of their own funk to make that music come alive. And I believe that is us. I believe we are this jazz band. But if you know how to play the saxophone, don't pretend to be a singer in a choir. Because you have so much more personality than that. I think this is an exciting time. I think a lot of things seem a little chaotic, but I don't think it's anything more than our generation can handle. We are strong as a generation. And we are very creative as a generation. And I think people look down on us because they don't understand us. And they don't understand that power. And I think that power is so much greater than what they can understand. It's almost like they're just of another time. They're just of another signature. Of course they can't understand us. And when I look back in like the 50s, I think of Elvis. And I think of how nobody understood him at first and his hips gyrating. But he was authentic to himself. And the old generation looked at him. They didn't understand him. But he, as the new generation, brought his funk, brought his voice, brought his life, and shaped a whole new era. And that whole generation was a part of that. And that is what we are. We are no different. We are here. We are like the teenagers of the 50s who became destructive and loud and rebellious. They were rebellious. It takes a little bit of a rebelliousness to be authentic, to not be pushed around by restrictions and what other people think of you. And I think when I think of Aquarians, we're supposed to be entering into the Aquarian age. It is a lot about, I think Aquarians are very authentic to themselves, no? Even if they're thick-headed and bull-headed. I've met all different types of Aquarians. Genuinely, they mean well. And they are a little rebellious. But they are true to themselves. They are authentic to themselves, whatever it may be. There's no denial about it. And that's the thing. I really enjoy watching some of these videos, like I guess they're like the 30s and the 40s. Things got a little bit quieter, because the 20s, I think, were also a very time-changing era, but they were so proper and so well-mannered. And as much as I admired them for being able to communicate so well, in a way they were restricted because they had to be a certain way. They had to be proper. They weren't allowed to authentically be themselves. They had to be a certain way to be accepted and to feel loved. And then you get the rebellious teenagers who come in and say, no, you know, I'm going to come in here and just shake things up a bit. And then I know that journey. I know the soul at that point really wanted to break free. I really feel like there probably was a lot of oppression at that time. So much conformity, so much restrictions. As beautiful as it was, I don't know how happy the soul was. And I think that's so important. Something can appear so beautiful, but how happy is it? A beautiful house with unhappy people in it? Why? Why? And it's not about the house. It is about the happiness within the house. It is about the people, the soul, the liveliness, the fun. It makes me sad sometimes when I look at the world and I see all the materialness out there. And I see how people appear to be happy, but yet are still so angry. They'll be dressed to the nines, but yelling at each other, angry. And it just makes me think of what I just said. It makes me think about the house that's beautiful on the outside with unhappy people inside of it. And the way the house was like excess, it was like a restriction. Having to obtain that appearance never allowed them to fully be happy. So are we going to be that generation that breaks out of the mold, that realizes what appears to be so beautiful is truly a shackle and is truly an illusion? That we as beings have so much more light than anything else. Let your light shine. Be who you are. It is that simple. It is as simple as being in the now and loving yourself in the now. I know it's so hard. It's hard for me too. I think if there's one thing that we can learn from the 1930s and the 1940s it's about being proper. So what's proper for that moment? It's not about always needing to be proper to the point where you're restricted, but what is proper in that moment? If there's a homeless man on the street who needs $1 and you know you have money, what is proper in that moment? If there's a friend that's down and needs your help, what is proper in that moment? If somebody is putting you down and hurting you, and you're just allowing it to happen, what is proper in that moment? You have to live each moment by moment. That is a key. Live each moment by moment, because you cannot rehearse properness like we tried to do in the 1920s and 1930s. Everything was so rehearsed. You cannot rehearse it. And if you do have it rehearsed, okay, no judgment, but maybe there's a part of you that wants to be a little bit more free than that. So what is proper in the moment? How do we live in the moment? How is it that when we're in nature and you have your phone, you have two options? What is proper in that moment? Are you going to try to soak in all the beauty, all that good energy around you from the trees? Or are you going to look into your phone? Which you can do an hour later when you're at home in bed. It's about living in that now moment that can enrich your life. Making that choice that feels enriching and nourishing to you in that moment. Simply feel. It has so much to do with feeling and facing fear in a way. When we fear things, we hold back our feelings. Sometimes we feel we want to do certain things, but we're afraid. Sometimes we want to wear certain pants or do our hair a certain way, but we're afraid because we don't know if it will be accepted. And then at that point, we end up restricting ourselves and restricting our nourishment to ourselves. And we end up feeding our nourishment in ways of acceptance from the outside world, rather than just nourishing ourselves from what wants to be done and expressed from within. So you see, it's all about the now. Everything is okay. You must remember that everything is okay. Even if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. We have to be forgiving of each other. It is the ridicule of the mistake that makes the mistake so scary and makes the mistake so hurtful. It is the ridicule of it. If you can be understanding of someone's mistake and understand that it has pure intentions and understand where the intentions come from, then it won't hurt you so much, right? So it's about understanding and opening. Where does acceptance truly come from? Where does acceptance truly come from? Who accepts you? Who is the one that truly has to accept you at the end of the day? I know me personally. I want to be happy. I want to be able to express myself and create that expression and live within that expression. I think that is honestly my heart's truest desire, is to simply create that expression that nourishes me and to live in that expression. I honestly think life is that simple. I think that could solve so much for us. I think a lot of blockages and a lot of chaos come from the fact that we were never allowed to fully express ourselves and live in that expression. So we end up living in a reality that's restricted and oppressive to our nature, and then we end up creating chaos and suffering simply because we weren't allowed to authentically express ourselves and live within that in the first place. Mayat, she wears an ostrich feather in her head. It's a light ostrich feather. White and light and fluffy, it barely weighs anything. And they say that she governs the dead, that she has the scale, and she weighs your heart against this feather. What makes the soul light, and what makes the soul heavy? What makes the soul light is joy, and what makes the soul heavy is suffering. The commandments are not necessarily per se supposed to be restrictions like we think they are. We've allowed commandments to be restrictions. They are not restrictions. They are simply how to live happily. That's all they are. Commandments are understandings and expressions of how to find joy and to respect one another in their process of finding that joy and expressing their expression and living within that. There's another analogy I heard that I really liked. It talked about an analogy of when you go to the other side, you take with you a picnic basket, and you look in that picnic basket, and you look at how many goodies did you take with you. How many times did you jump and take the risk? How many exciting moments did you live fully, not halfly, not the vain type? You cannot take those with you, I'm sorry. They have to be like profound moments that really come from within. I think the soul would be happy if it was like, oh, well, yeah, I succeeded at working a 9-to-5 job, or I succeeded in working for this tech company and making a lot of money. I succeeded, but at the end of the day, I don't think those are good memories for the soul or the mind. Good memories are filled with love, and love is authenticness. So how true were you to yourself? How much suffering have you caused yourself? And how much joy have you provided for yourself? And what will be in your picnic basket at the end of your journey, says Mayat, who holds the scales. It is always so much more simple than we make it. Just authentically express yourself and live in that expression. And the key word is authentic. There's a lot of restrictions and conformity and programming that has happened to us. And we've allowed it as a collective consciousness because perhaps it's something that we needed to understand and to be where we are and to be who we are, to be who we will be. But a simple guideline, a simple rule, is that which Mayat stands for. Be as light as the ostrich feather. Flutter around with joy, happiness, and laughter. Know your intentions are pure and with love, and that you accept everyone, and that in doing so everyone will accept you. It will change your frequency, it will change your vibration. You will be as light as an ostrich feather. It is that simple. It is that simple. It's the battle of being authentic to ourselves and enriching ourselves in each moment by being authentic to ourselves. So Aquarians, where are you, my authentic Aquarians? Are we going to sing our song or no? Because I think it's about time we be heard. Thoughts of Thoth and love of Maat. Thoughts of Thoth and love of Maat. Thoughts of Thoth and love of Maat, may you ring into the universe. May you echo your richness and wisdom upon us all. Enrichment is the seeker of the soul. Thoth is the seeker of the soul. He seeks to understand and connect to everything. He seeks to understand all life and to see its essence underneath it. The same esoteric man that I was telling you about before. He says that there's the soul and then there's the personality. That although things may appear certain ways, it is always important to see the intention underneath it. That is where the enrichment and the juiciness lies. So when you see a plant, or when you see a tree, yes, it may appear a certain way in this dense material reality. It has a personality in this dense material reality. But what is the essence under the tree? Without the perception of your eyes, what is it that you feel when you are around a tree? Not only what is the essence, but what is the lesson of a tree? How does a tree grow? How does a tree survive? What is a tree? That is the essence. Those are thoughts of Thoth, that everything lies therein. So I believe as we become more authentic to ourselves, we will truly start to authentically seek true desires and authentic connections to all. And if we find authentic connection to all, then we can respect one another and live in joy and unlock many keys of wisdom. I will leave this there. I will leave this there. Thoughts of Thoth and love of Maat.